So there was a WNBA basketball player, Brittany Griner, that got arrested in Russia. I don't even remember when. It was a while ago. She was flying into the country and she had some vape cartridges with THC in them. And as far as I know, she's not, like, she didn't deny having them. I guess I don't know a ton of the details around like how much it was. All I know is she was a American basketball player for the WNBA who has like 7 out of the 10 top women's dunks in history. Like, I'm not even kidding. She's like ridiculously tall, and everyone who's a basketball fan probably knows who she is. But I guess she got sentenced to like 9.5 years in prison today, of what I heard over there in Russia. And rumor on the street is that Biden wants to trade like a very notorious arms dealer in like exchange for her release, which I don't know if that's necessarily true, but I need to look into it more. But I would be really embarrassed if we did that. I mean, it's embarrassing enough to have a American citizen of, I guess, her standing. I mean, arrested overseas anyway, but I don't know. Like, I don't know if we necessarily want to talk about like the details of her arrest, because I can't say that I know a ton about it, but I would say, doesn't that show there's some value as far as like actually knowing the laws before you go into a certain country, and like trying to make sure you're following as much as you can, like especially when you're on entry, right? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So my initial thought is that this whole thing is fucking stupid.
yeah,
Weed should not be illegal anywhere.
I agree.
It's a plant, for one. Like, governments are arresting people for growing plants and using them. 2, they have turned out to be extremely beneficial for a lot of different reasons. I think the main reason that they're illegal is because of the opioid, like the medical. What am I trying to say? Everybody who's selling opioids to everybody doesn't want you finding something that's way cheaper, way more accessible, and way easier to get. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's stupid that it's illegal anywhere, but it's stupid to take them somewhere where you can get in trouble for it. So it was a very bad decision on her part. But to get almost a decade,
yeah,
for weed, and it wasn't even, it was less than a gram.
Was it? Did you look it up?
Yeah, I got an article right here.
Okay.
And I'll show it in a second after we talk about it for a minute. But I mean, people who are on drugs, we shouldn't be locking them in prison. It's not helping anything.
No.
The war on drugs is only benefiting the state, because then they get all this extra money, they get all this extra military equipment. Now they have a war to go fight something, so it's just ridiculous in the first place.
Yeah, I agree.
When I say that drugs shouldn't be illegal, I just don't mean the ones that aren't harmful and that are actually beneficial to you, but I also mean the ones that are harmful to you. Like, these people don't need to be thrown in a prison, for one. That's just going to make their drug problems worse when they get back out. But like, it's not helping anything. fighting it with violence and throwing them in prison is not helping anything. It's making the drug problems worse. And
Yes.
they're not winning the war on drugs. It'd be one thing if they're like, oh, hey, we had to do some shitty things to some people, but look, we got heroin off the streets. You could at least make an argument for that. And I'm talking about America. I don't know what the fuck's going on in Russia,
Sure.
but it can't be that much different for any state that's trying to combat drugs. If people want them, they're going to get them. Your drug war isn't benefiting anybody.
Well, and like her arrest too, like Russia is just gonna I mean, they're trying to just hang it over our heads, like they know that it's a story over here. They're gonna sentence her to a 9-year decade prison sentence, whatever, and just to embarrass America, they're gonna do that. But to your point, though, as far as the war on drugs here in the States, I do find it very, very strange how many sentences like hers have been actually handed down to people in the United States for drugs. It's not as common anymore. I bet it probably still happens some places where people with small amounts of drugs get huge sentences for it. I don't think it happens as much, but I bet if I looked up, I'd probably be surprised at how many people still get thrown in jail for just some personal drugs that isn't really hurting anyone else except for them, maybe, and it might not even be hurting them. They might be using it in a way that they're able to still function and be a productive member of society, because that is possible too.
Yeah,
So,
people can actually use drugs that everybody looks down upon responsibly. For one, and yeah, it's just outrageous. I wonder if they're doing it because she is such a name. Apparently, I've never heard of her before until right now, but I'm not into sports whatsoever. But I wonder if it's just kind of like a middle finger to us because of what's going on in Ukraine and what we're doing with Ukraine to fuck over Russia.
Yeah, some of that definitely plays a part, because even if just her being jailed makes us look weak. You know what I mean? Because they know it's a story over here. So they're going to do what they can to keep her in jail and hang it over the heads. Yeah, they're going to try to make deals. They're going to try to make deals probably. And so it's a lose-lose either way. If we trade because they're not going to just trade for a regular Russian citizen. They're going to try to trade for
stop funding Ukraine, stop selling the missiles, and we'll give you your woman basketball player back.
Yeah, dude. Yeah,
which they're not going to do, and it's shitty on them for using a person to try to get leverage over our political people,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. There's so many different ways that we can go with this conversation. I hate the war on drugs. I don't think that people should do heroin. I think it's bad for you. I think it's destructive. If one of my friends was doing heroin all the time, I would try to help them and try to get their life better so they're not doing heroin. I don't
think some people should do weed. There's some people that weed is destructive for them, but that goes with any kind of thing that you put in your body. There's some people who overdo it on exercise. There's some people overdo it on caffeine.
There's people who shouldn't be eating Mexican food.
Yes, absolutely. So, and so you can go down the list of nearly everything that makes you feel good, and there's somebody abusing it and doing it wrongly.
Yeah, right. But my point was, just because I don't think we should throw people in prison for doing heroin doesn't mean that I think people should be doing heroin. I just think if you were doing heroin, I'd just be like, Luke, what's wrong? Why are you doing heroin? You have a family, let's get your life back on track. I wouldn't be like, hey, I have a cage in my basement and now you're going there for 10 years because you were doing heroin.
I see what you mean. Yeah. You try to help.
Yeah. And the people who are doing hard drugs, to the extent of it destroying their life, or even drugs that we don't consider hard drugs. If they're doing it to the point that they're destroying their life, it's not, I don't think it's just because they're addicted to it and like they just need it. Do you know who Johan Hari is?
The name sounds familiar, but I can't say in this moment that I could even tell you. Yeah,
Okay.
about him. Yeah, sounds familiar though.
Joe Rogan, I don't listen to all of his episodes. I might listen to 5% of them, depending on who's on there. But some of the best ones that I've ever listened to or watched is with Johan Hari. And there's two of them that I know of. He wrote Chasing the Scream. And his whole thing is he had a lot of people in his life that were really addicted to drugs. And he just watched people get destroyed by drugs.
Yeah.
And so he was trying to figure it out so he could help other people with it. And he kind of came up with, I don't know if he came up with this, but he came to the conclusion that it's not because you try heroin once, now you're just hooked on heroin, so you need to do heroin. It's because people are trying to escape their life and their shitty situation.
Yeah.
And if you get their life better, then they'll stop using the heroin at least as much as they are. So, but putting people in jail for this kind of stuff is making their life worse. And then you turn around and it makes their entire family worse. So then it's like making people do more drugs to escape their shitty situations. And
well, and I find that a lot of times when there's something that you want to stop doing or even to start doing, you need to do it on your own terms. And there's a lot of people, like, if they have a problem, like, sure, having an intervention in some way with people who love you is good, but if you're just a guy who's trying, like, in a shitty spot and you happen to get caught with some drugs and, like, God forbid you be exercising your Second Amendment right at the same time, you know how that compounds the charges sometimes as well for those people. And you get thrown in the cage, like, you might come out a shittier person than you even were. And probably not might, like, it was probably much more likely you're going to be a shittier person when you come out, much more jaded, much more angry at the world. So no, I feel what you're saying, man. It's, those people don't need that kind of rehabilitation, that being thrown in a cage. And with, like, other criminals,
violent criminals,
same as the, yeah, I don't know, man. It's fucked up.
They did a study with rats. When I say they, I don't actually know who did it, but this is another thing that Johan talks about. Like, they had one rat in a cage, 2 jugs of water that the rat could drink out of, one laced with drugs and one just pure water. And it just drank the drug water until it died. And they're like, oh, that's it. The drugs get you hooked. And it's just, once you have it in your body, you need to have it again. But then
it's not necessarily true.
Well, no. So somebody else did a study with like a rat city, and there was things that they could go play on, whatever. There's a bunch of rats in there, like they could go have sex, they could, do whatever they wanted to with all the other rats. It's funny because he just mentions that a lot, like they could live and have fun as much as rats have fun, whatever, but there was other interactions with other living things in there, and they had water, and then they also had drug water, and they did use the drug water, but not to the extent where it killed them, and they were much happier, and they weren't like depressed about it. And that's kind of where the idea came up with, like, if you're a rat by yourself, your life's going to be way worse than if you're with a bunch of other rats and you can run around and have fun, and I think that has a lot to do with society today. Like, I think it's fair to say that our society is declining drastically. And when people get put in bad situations, they turn to different drugs. Like, I have, for sure, like, alcohol is a drug. Right. And there's been moments in my life where I've struggled with that, and it's just kind of because of the shitty things happening in my life.
Mhm.
And I know countless people like that too. And then
I'm one of them. I'm one of them too. Yeah, absolutely.
and if people are being honest, it's probably a very large percentage of the population.
Yeah.
So I do want to bring this article up that I found, and
Okay.
because one of
Oh,
my
about Brittany.
yeah, well, yeah,
Okay.
one of my biggest complaints about the right wing is kind of their love for the police state, and with the war on drugs and stuff, they just like champion it. And a lot of them are Christians, or at least say they are, and I just find it horribly. No, I think it's disgusting that you can be like, oh, I'm a Christian, and it's good that we're locking people up for drugs. It's like,
Yeah.
if your neighbor was doing that, would you be comfortable locking them in jail yourself? But it kind of gets detached when you can tell somebody else, or at least support somebody else in doing that action when you don't know the person, you don't have to see it. But if somebody was, that's just not a Christian thing to do whatsoever. And there's
No.
a point for me to say that because, here, let me share the screen here.
Yeah.
What were you saying?
Oh, I was just gonna say, isn't that frustrating sometimes when like there's certain parts of your life, like if you're a Christian or a gun owner, or and people are like immediately associate you with like right wing. You know what I mean? Like you know what I'm saying, Dan, that they immediately go to that. Well, you're just like you're mega, or you're this and that, and it's like, no, I'm much more complicated than that. I don't think you understand. like,
Right.
like you can't even possibly comprehend. If you want to sit down to me or with me for like a couple hours and chat about it, like,
Or like 5 minutes, I would confuse you on what I believe. And
yeah.
even though it would probably be easy to look at me and my life and be like, oh, you're definitely a Republican and you love
Yeah.
Trump. It's like, well, I think it was the best part about Trump was how funny it was to watch the left, and there was certain things that I liked about it, but I also think that he should be tried for war crimes, specifically for what he continued in Yemen.
Yeah.
But that's a whole
That was
different topic on this.
disgusting.
It still is. It's still disgusting. Biden's still continuing it, but
It's been going on for fucking years. Yeah.
this Barack Obama, he's the one who started it and decided to wage a war of genocide on Yemen. But so conservatives joined Trump in siding with Russia after Brittany Griner guilty verdict.
What
What
did Trump say? Did he bash her?
Oh yeah, it says right here.
Oh, of course.
Former President Trump bashed Griner recently, calling her a potentially spoiled person who went to Russia loaded with drugs.
Yeah.
And right wingers are now celebrating the verdict on social media in step with Russia State, which found no sympathy. Yeah, I know. She probably had enough for herself.
Yeah.
It may be a little extra, but so right wing. Oh, here's just some tweets, right? So it seems like the Russians are doing to Griner what the Biden administration is doing to nonviolent January 6th protesters. Hard for us to feign indignation when the same thing is going on here. Russia prosecutors seek 9.5-year sentence. Sometimes I just have a hard time reading.
Me too.
So this is kind of confusing because I think he's saying,
yeah, that's an odd take from Dinesh. I get like, is he saying?
It's weird that they're throwing this in here because that doesn't seem like a huge bash against her. It doesn't seem like he's really taking Trump's side because he's saying it seems like they're doing to her what our government did to January 6th protesters, and way overreacting and throwing them in prison for a long time for nothing. It seems like what he's saying. So I don't really understand their take on that. But so Brittany is cautionary tale. Hate America, think it's oppressive, go to another country, play stupid games, and find out what oppression and no justice looks like.
I
That's
guess,
so sad.
but I know people that have been fucked over for like the same, if not less, too, in America as well. Like, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, I guess I can't say I know of people personally that have had a sentence that long for drugs like that, but it's happened in America. Like, this has happened in America for sure.
Oh yeah, a lot.
So
I'm gonna invite Bjorn really quick.
it probably happens more in other places now, I guess. But again, I'm not looking at any data. I might be surprised.
It doesn't happen as much as it used to,
Yeah.
I guess, so that's a good thing. But it's really stupid for right-wing people to jump on stuff like this and be like, "Oh, you hate America. Well, I'm glad that you're locked up in Russia now." Like, even if you don't like the person, obviously, I don't know if she hates America or thinks it. I think it's oppressive in a lot of ways.
I don't
You know,
want her to be there. I would rather her not be there. And like, honestly, like American, I would rather not, like, any American citizen be arrested for something like that
yeah,
in another country. I
or
think it's
anybody anywhere at
I
any
think
time.
it's again, I will say what I said at the beginning of this. I think you need to be very aware of what you're doing and what you have, and you need to be very careful, and you need to take some responsibility for that. But it doesn't mean that I necessarily agree with the sentence that she's being handed down.
Dude, 10 years for some weed.
Yeah.
That's fucking insane. I don't know who this guy is, but Brittany
I don't know.
Griner is not a political prisoner. She carried drugs that were illegal with her in Russia and was arrested. There's nothing political about that. I mean,
Nick Adams. I don't know who Nick Adams is either.
while discussing her prison sentence, I think it's important to note that Russia would have never invaded Ukraine with Trump still in the White House. What the fuck does that have to do with anything? In a way, Brittany's Griner's jail time is a result of her own activism in support of Joe Biden. What the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Yeah,
That has nothing to do with anything.
that's ridiculous.
And all these blue check marks, like, so apparently a lot of people follow him and they just have shit
Interesting.
takes on everything. No, it's sad, dude. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't care what her political views are. I don't want anybody being locked up for something like that, especially in a different country
Yeah.
for 10 years. That's fucking outrageous.
Yeah.
Welcome, Bjorn.
Hey, Bjorn. I was so happy to hear the that horn that was sounding. It made me laugh when I saw it.
My life's a freaking mess right now.
Mine too.
I mean, like a literal mess. Like, I'm not even gonna try to clean up my little studio spot in the basement here. It's just I'm covered in, you know what I'm covered in? I'm covered in slurry.
I thought you were gonna say spum.
No,
I
it's
thought it
what
was
we
gonna.
call it slurry. I hate the word.
All right, so here's something else, dude. So we're in the middle of something here, Bjorn. So Brittany Griner was found guilty of smuggling illegal narcotics into Russia and sentenced to 9 years in prison on Thursday. Griner had told the court she used marijuana for medicinal purposes. As is legal in the US and other countries, she was caught with less than a gram of cannabis oil.
That's not very much at all.
No, and I mean,
Did she try that whole thing of like, it's not mine, I swear?
No, she admitted to it. Like apparently, I guess she did, but I mean that's the word on the street. I don't know if it's true necessarily though. I haven't seen her admit to it, I guess.
I'm probably like way off course with what you guys are saying, but as far as I care, like, it's our own stupid fault for bringing it into Russia. Like,
I have that take too.
what does she expect to happen? Like, I just caught what Dane was saying. Like, he doesn't think that somebody should be locked up for blah blah blah. Like, fine, but What did she expect to happen traveling with that shit to another country?
Yeah, I agree with that too, but it's like one of those things like I also want to carry like my firearm across state lines into certain states and conceal it or whatever. But I can't do that in some states, so I don't. But if like someone who does do it, I'd be like, okay, you're dumb for not like following the law. Do I think that the law of that state, do I think that they should be arrested for it? No. Like I would, you know what I mean? It's like kind of that kind of deal, man, for me. But I agree. I agree with you too. Yeah, you need to, if there's a place that's not friendly to that shit, like take your precautions, man.
Yeah. So
Sports team, right? Like that's the whole thing.
yeah.
Like, don't you think probably her coach and like trainers and stuff were like, by the way, make sure you guys don't do anything like this or bring any of this stuff along?
Maybe.
Like,
I mean, that's possible. And what we did talk about it being stupid for her to do that. But at the same time, just because it was stupid for her to do that, I'm not like, oh, well, now you deserve fucking 10 years in prison in Russia because you did that. Like, that's fucked up.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's the embassy's problem now, not mine.
Well, sure, but if America all of a sudden made a law and one of us got busted for it, I wouldn't be like, oh, well, you knew they told you not to do that, so it's cool that now you're locked up forever.
No, I think the whole thing, for me, the whole thing is Russia. Like, it doesn't really concern me.
Yeah.
Well, the point of it isn't
Vote her out of jail.
Say that again.
I can't vote her out of prison. Like if it happened in, New York, like that's part of the United States of America. Like that concerns laws that we can hypothetically, affect. Even if it's in a different, I'm just saying like Russia, like, you roll the dice and you pay the price. Sorry, babe.
Sure. I mean, none of us actually know her. Obviously, I never even knew her name until we started recording. But that doesn't mean I'm just like, oh, well, fuck you. You shouldn't have done that. So you get what you deserve. Like she doesn't deserve that at all.
Maybe if she wins the fight in the gulag, she'll get to redeploy.
Maybe. I don't know.
So, well, whatever she does in there, like if there's a basketball team, she's gonna tear some shit up. Because if you look up the top 10 women's dunks, she's got 7 of them. Brittany Griner.
Really?
Yeah.
She starts playing in the Olympics for Russia.
Gonna happen.
Well, the whole reason why she was going over there in the first place is that's what her gig was for the past few years, was when she wasn't playing in the WNBA, she would go over to Russia and play basketball in Russia. and play basketball and smuggle drugs into Russia. But yeah, I don't know.
No, I mean, conservatives to be so against drugs to the point where they want the state to arrest people for it is just
especially
fucking stupid, state. Man. Yeah, any state, like their beloved Ronald Reagan and George H.W. Bush, was ramping up the drug war while simultaneously flying cocaine to Black communities.
Yep.
But
that's been debunked, Dane.
No, oh, sure. Yeah, I can't prove that this is true. I don't know if it's true, but I really trust the guy who told me. And I'm pretty good friends with him. And he was in the military and did some higher echelon shit, if you want to call it that. and had a lot of good friends who started working for other government agencies and stuff like that. And one day I was talking to him about the drug war and stuff like that, you know, and he was telling me how some of his friends are, this was a few years ago, but how they're supporting and funding and helping certain drug cartels because the other ones are so much worse. So they're ramping all that shit up to like cause war in Mexico between the drug lords because the other ones are worse. It's just like, dude, if America made drugs legal, that would take so much power away from the drug cartels immediately.
So essentially what they're saying is they're like trying to cause problems between cartels so like casualties get taken out of the ones that are worse. Is that
like cartel A is so bad, so we have to fund and help cartel B because cartel A is so bad. But yeah, with that, I don't know.
It could be had. I'm sure there's. Oh, sorry, Brian.
Well, when you're saying that if drugs were made legal in America, like that it would take power away from the cartels, I don't know if that's true. Wouldn't that just mean that they could do whatever they wanted without having to bribe officials? They could probably just put more money into their accounts because they could go about their business without having to cover that kind of stuff at all. And they'd already have a head start on any other drug companies because they've already been doing it for so long.
Okay, so with that said, I just got to ask you guys a question. Do you know who that guy was way back during Prohibition? He lived in Chicago. His name was Al
Capone.
Yeah. You guys know who that guy is? You've heard of him before, right?
Mm-hmm.
He would not be known for what he's known for if alcohol was legal. Once they made it legal, did he still run his gang like he did before? Was he still a mobster like that? Or did he grow to that power because alcohol was illegal and doing things in the illegal market gives people power and money?
Interesting. Yeah.
How would, if the states here could start selling drugs, growing drugs here and selling them to people legally, how would that benefit the cartels? And it wouldn't be legal for them to do business over here. It would just take away their market for people to do it here. And if
it would not be legal for them to do it here.
Is it legal for gangs to do business? I don't know. I mean, is it legal for Mexico to sell people here weed?
You'd still have people cutting corners, sure. Like there'd still be an element of it, 100%. Because people would try to, yeah, because people would still try to get around the regulations and the red tape and like the taxes and all that kind of stuff. Like that still would exist, but it would cut out a substantial part of the market because people wouldn't be going to those kind of sources as much.
And if they were doing it, they would be going to more legitimate businesses, and legitimate businesses can be lacing it with shit. So all of a sudden drugs would be, not to say more healthy, but they wouldn't be as destructive to the people. And if drugs were easier to get that weren't as harmful, it would be more likely that people wouldn't be doing such hard drugs.
And
I'm not saying that would stop people from doing hard drugs, but like if people, like with weed, you know, in a lot of places people can just go buy weed.
What is your thought on it though, Dane, as far as like the regs and like the piece that the state and the federal government for sure is getting out of the legitimate stuff too? You know what I mean? Like there's going to be regulations, like the state's going to have their hand in the pot.
Oh, I thought you said rags, not regs.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No. I was like, what do you mean rags?
I've been up a while, so.
Well, first of all, fuck those people. They shouldn't have their hand in any of our businesses. Yeah. And like people were like, oh, you can tax weed for like 50%. It's like, I don't want them to tax anything. I mean, that's
Um,
that's better than them locking people up for 10 years for smoking weed, but it's still
that's
not ideal.
yeah,
But it's
yeah, that's
better.
true. Yeah,
What were you saying, Bjorn?
that's what I've struggled with.
Well, Dan, you're
Is
talking about people, making better drugs and then, being held accountable for the quality of them. But who do you think who's going to have the regulations on that? Who's going to be the quality control on that? It's going
Well,
to
I
be the
mean,
government.
I don't understand what that has to do with anything. I mean, if I have a business and I start lacing it with things that are going to start killing people, that's not beneficial for me to run the business, first of all. So it would be, and I hate to say healthier, a lot of drugs are harmful, but it wouldn't be laced with crazy shit that ends up killing people.
yeah,
But if you go to fucking Jerry on the street corner, you don't know what that's laced with.
Yeah, but I mean, when you look at the pharmaceutical companies, they don't really care about your health, do they?
Right. And like I said before, I don't want the government to exist, but it's more, it would be a lot better if drugs were just legal. And it would
No,
be beneficial to the drug users.
It's,
whatever,
it's probably just.
whatever. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Bjorn.
I hate this. I was just talking to Destiny today about getting a new computer, so hopefully this will be a thing of the past. But I guess I wasn't saying that it would cause the drug cartels to disappear. I think you're talking more about like the power and maybe the violence and the bad things that are associated with cartels. I think the cartels would probably just corporatize, if that's a word. And I don't know. We're probably just talking about two different things. And
There'd be, and
Give me 2 seconds here. Even if they corporatize, that would be beneficial because right now their main power is violence. So if the things are legal, they can't use, not that they can't, but I mean, right now their power comes through violent means and illegal activity with violent means. But if all of a sudden they start using the legal system, well, now they're not just going to go kill their competition, right? And maybe they would, but I mean, it would. But like, if people can start growing drugs in California, why are you going to start doing it illegally?
it's such an interesting conversation because, like, there's always going to be people with their hands in the pot of everything. There's people, like shady people in the hands, like have their hands in the pot with shoes. You
Right.
know what I mean? There's and all that. So it's and like when you start talking
bootleg movies.
bootleg, yeah. And so like when you get drugs involved, like you already have the established channels like with the illegal drugs, and like they have to kind of be shitting their pants a little bit when they're seeing a little more acceptance in the West of drugs being made legal or at least decriminalized, because they're going to have to change their tactics. And I agree, like a part of that change of tactics, like they're going to have to calm down a little bit more, because if they act up, like I like they might get fucked up a little bit more now, because there might be more at stake, man. Like I don't know. I don't even know if I know what I'm talking about, but
Well,
it's
here's the
just a
last.
complicated fucking subject, man.
Here's the last thing I'll say, and then you guys can throw in whatever you have to before we end this
Yeah.
one. But I mean, no one's killing each other over alcohol sales. No one's buying booze on the streets. What? What you think?
Okay.
You think alcohol companies are murdering each other so they can sell their shit?
I heard a Clydesdale got I heard that one of the Budweiser Clydesdales just got whacked the other day.
by who? By who?
by
Coors Light?
By the but yeah, by the Coors Light jockey.
They were sent to the glue factory, Luke.
But I mean, people
Oh, shit.
aren't buying beer on the street from some shitty dude that's laced with shit that's gonna get them killed.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
it's not.
People are definitely buying booze on the street, though. So there can be violence there. And are you not familiar at all with the whole moonshine, I don't know, documentaries or the whatever is going on in the freaking hills of the Appalachian Mountains where people are moonshining? Like, there is definitely alcohol shit going down. So whenever you said no one is killing people over
Okay,
alcohol,
maybe that was a little,
that broad statement to.
but how many?
I don't
Compared
have
to
a- I
what? How many compared to how many were getting killed when it was illegal? The point still stands, even though if there's a few people who are killed over moonshine sales. And moonshine's illegal. So I think that helps my point even more.
Is it? I'm pretty sure you can buy moonshine at Hy-Vee.
Oh, for
That's the
you can't-
commercialized shit.
Yeah, you can't make it and sell it yourself.
You can definitely make it. I mean, can't you get like a license to make grain alcohol for?
Okay, so then you're going through the legal routes. I'm saying if you're getting in the whole. Do you not see my point though?
No, I see your point. I see both of your points.
I'm
But
not
am I
saying say that again, Bjorn.
Do you not want me to play devil's advocate and push back at all? Am I just supposed to nod my head and be like, "Yep, everything you say is correct"?
That's fine. And I'm not saying it would fix all the problems. I think people taking certain drugs is a problem. I'm just saying it would be a lot better. It would be a lot better.
If you, instead of throwing people in jail for it,
Or just like,
or even
building-
looking down on some of them sometimes, man. Like,
or just building up cartels.
yeah,
Instead of throwing them in jail and looking down on them, throw them in the library and look up to them.
Sure. No, I think the point still stands though. I mean, people aren't getting killed. Maybe a few, but it's not a whole bunch of people who are getting killed over alcohol.
I hope Brittany can dunk in 10 years. Still,
I wonder how old she is going to be by that point.
Dude, she's
how
gonna
old
be
is she?
that freaking ball and chain. She's gonna be able to jump so freaking high. Her legs are gonna be freaking so much bigger.
Oh god, that sucks, man. Yeah, that's bad. Not what you said, but just like thinking about her, like she has to be just like, what the fuck did this happen? Like, how the fuck did this happen? I'm in jail in Russia now. I went from being this women's basketball phenom to like WNBA champion. Like she was an NCAA champion, I think maybe a couple times. She's probably run a couple titles in the WNBA, and now she's like, now I'm fucking facing like 9 years in a Russian prison over fucking vape cartridges.
Yeah, it's shitty. It's
still some personal responsibility there, but it doesn't make it right what they gave her.
shitty. No, not at all.
9 years is gonna fly by. It'll be just like that.
Sure.
We'll be having you can have like a welcome home show on the abandoned cockpit.
Welcome home, Brittany. I'll make a flag. Yeah.
Her life turns out so shitty that she comes on here.
Oh, that's freaking hilarious.
I
I
think
hear
it's
you guys had my back.
I think it's easy for people to be like, oh, drugs are bad, therefore it should be illegal, without ever taking the time of thinking about all the other negative things that happen by making things illegal and giving the state power to run over it. You know, they're, like I was saying before, I mean, they fund drug companies, and companies, I mean like cartels, or they fly cocaine into communities while ramping up the drug war. So it's definitely a benefit to them, and they're just ruining our lives by doing it. So with that, I'm done with this conversation. Just because it's been going on for a minute. I could talk about this forever because it's something that does really bother me. But if you guys have anything else to say it before we end it. All right. Well, we're gonna end it.
Hey, don't let me forget on Tuesday I can wear pants.